Anyway, I'm Mrs. Taylor. This is Mr. Ledesma and Miss Peterson over here. We have the pleasure and joy of
I was going to start it whenever that's replaced.
This group of students who have put a lot of effort and time into this.
Okay,
we started out at the beginning of the year,
the stream, the
in
sound.
November.
Because you did it last time.
So we scheduled for January.
You had the sound off, put this out, and then it was broken.
But Mr. Wynn had to come in and substitute for teachers who are out with COVID. So we were all down for the count. That didn't happen. And by the time we looked at the calendar again, this was the date. So we thank you so much for taking time to be with us tonight. I think you'll enjoy what we've done. We've related the importance of being earnest. What it finally developed into is us showing you the process that it goes into creating a production. And that is almost more fun than just doing it.
It was very football. I was a pretty baller joking. Did you see when they started phone tweaking? Oh my, that was the best part. The best of the worst.
See? No, absolutely not. I didn't use your bias. He's probably not doing it.
Hello, students. Good morning, students. Good morning, I appreciate you pushing on an accent for this.
Of course, Doc.
Although, of course, it will never be as great as mine.
I beg to differ, Mr. Ledesma. subpart.
Very good. Now, we are entering the theatrical setting. And quite a fantastic crescent moon you've made. Excellent. Are we prepared? Do all of you have your scripts?
Yes.
Welcome to the blocking rehearsal for the importance of being earnest. Does anyone have any questions before we begin?
When do we leave?
Until I say so.
How was your day?
It was an interesting drive here. Some lady hit my car.
Lexus Is this a true story?
This is a true story.
Was it a BMW truck?
Anyway,
That was fun, yeah.
very good. We'll begin. Now, you all have your scripts as I have asked you. You have your writing utensils. Please show me your writing utensils. Very good, fantastic, excellent. This is method acting at its finest. May someone remind the class what the importance is of being, importances of writing down something in your script?
Memorization.
Memorization. Any other?
Stage direction.
Stage directions. Anything else? Blocking. Blocking. Can someone describe what blocking is?
Julia?
It's where you go on stage and where you're supposed to be.
Yes. Indeed. Blocking is how to say a line, how to move, how to act, how to interact with the character. It's where to go, and it's what not to do as well. Blocking can be done in many ways. Can someone describe to me the first way blocking can be done? What are you writing?
Words.
Words. Very good. And then arrows. Did you raise your hand?
Arrows.
Arrows. And what does an up arrow indicate?
Stand up.
And what does a down arrow indicate?
Sit down.
Excellent work. And then secondly, what are you sitting on right now? What is this called?
A
stage.
Stage. And does anyone know the directions of the stage? What is the layout?
Center stage.
Center stage. What is this?
Up stage.
And what's that?
Down stage.
Excellent. And now, this is the confusion. What is left right?
The actor's left and the actor's right.
From whose perspective?
The actor's.
The actor's perspective. Excellent work. Fantastic. Now that we have that set in stone, do we have any questions before we begin with opening season? No?
No, sir.
Very good. Crew, are you ready to be dismissed? To your duties, crew. Take the chairs with you. Start getting things set up. If you are not in opening scene, you are also dismissed. Take your chairs with you. If you are in the opening scene, please start preparing. Use those chairs too. We need a table. Flip the chair. One more for sofa. We're missing a chair for the table.
hear what I was playing, Lane?
I didn't think you'd like to listen, sir.
Very natural.
Wrong bell.
Wrong.
I'm sorry for that. For your sake, I don't play accurately.
Yeah.
Anybody can play
That you
accurately.
keep off stage.
But I play with wonderful expression. And as far as the piano is concerned, sentiment is my forte. And I keep a science for life.
Yes, sir.
And speaking of science for life, have you got the cucumber sandwiches cut for Lady Bracknell?
Yes, sir.
Oh, by the way, I read from a book that on Thursday evening with Royal Children and Mr. Worthing were dining with me, 8 bottles of champagne are entered heaven.
Yes, sir. 8 bottles and a pint.
Why is it that at a bachelor's establishment, the servants invariably drink the champagne? I ask merely for information.
I attribute it to the superior quality of the wine, sir. I've often observed that in married households, champagne is rarely a first-rate brand.
Good heavens, is marriage so demoralizing as that?
I believe it is a very pleasant state, sir. I've had very little experience of it of myself up to the present. I've only been married once. That was in consequence of a misunderstanding between myself and a young person.
I don't know that I'm much interested in your family life, Lane.
No, sir. It is a most very interesting subject. I never think of it myself.
Very natural, I'm sure. That will do, Lane. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Lane's views on marriage seem somewhat lax. Really, if the lower orders have set us a good example, to what is the use of them? They seem as a class to have no moral responsibility.
Cross received.
Mr. Earnest.
How are you, my dear Earnest? What brings you up to town?
Oh, pleasure, pleasure. What else brings anyone up to town? Eating as usual, I see.
I believe it's customary to take some slight refreshment at 5 o'clock. Where have you been since last Thursday?
Hello. Why all these cups? Why all these cucumber sandwiches? Why such reckless extravagance in one so young? Who's covering the tea?
Oh, merely Aunt Augusta and Gwendolyn.
How perfectly delightful.
Yes, that is all very well, but I'm afraid Aunt Augusta will quite approve of your being here.
Ask why?
My dear fellow, the way you flirt with her is perfectly horrid. It's almost as bad as the way she flirts with you.
I'm in love with Gwendolyn, and I've come up to town expressly to propose to her. That is all.
Well, I thought you would come up for pleasure. I call that business.
How utterly unromantic you are.
I really don't take anything romantic in a definite proposal. It is very romantic to be in love, but a definite proposal, there's nothing romantic about that. Please, don't touch your cucumber sandwiches. They are ordered specially for Aunt Augusta.
Well, you've been eating them all this time.
That's a quite different matter. She is my aunt. Have some bread and butter. The bread and butter is for one. She's devoted to bread and butter. My dear fellow, you need not eat as if you're going to eat it all. You act as if you are married to her, and I don't think you ever will be.
Why do you say that?
Well, in the first place, girls never marry the men they flip. They don't think it right. In the second, I don't give my consent.
Your consent?
My dear fellow, Gwendolyn is my first cousin. And before I allow you to marry her, you have to clear up the whole question of Cecily.
Cecily? What do you mean by Cecily? What do you mean, Algie, by Cecily? I don't know anyone with the name of Cecily.
Reading you that calling clock case Mr. Worthing left in the dining room last time we dined.
You mean to tell me you've had my calling card case this whole time? Wish to goodness you'd let me know. I've been writing frantic letters to the Scotland Yard, and I was very nearly offering a large reward.
Well, I wish you would offer him one. I happen to be more than you usually hard at.
No good offering a large reward now that the thing is found.
I think that is rather mean of you, Ernest. However, now that I look at the description inside, I find the thing isn't yours after all.
Of course it's mine. You've seen it with me 100 times, and you have no right whatsoever to read what's inside. It's a very ungentlemanly thing to read a private calling card case.
Yes, but this isn't your calling card case. This is someone named Cecily, and you said you don't know anything for that reason.
Well, if you want to know, Cecily happens to be my aunt.
Your aunt? But why does she call herself Little Cecily with the fondest love she is your aunt? I can't quite make it out.
Some aunts are tall, some aunts are not tall. Just give it back to me already, Algie.
Yes, but your aunt, why does she call herself Little Cecily if she is your aunt? From Little Cecily with her fondest love.
My aunt.
Yes, but why does your aunt call you her uncle? From Little Cecily with her fondest love to her dear Uncle Jack. Wait, your name is Jack? It's Ernest.
He's an Earnest, it's Jack.
But you have always told me it was Ernest. You look as if your name is Ernest. I have introduced you to the name of Ernest. It's perfectly ridiculous you're saying your name is Ernest. Here's your cards. Ernest Wood, B for the album. I'll keep this as proof. You are denied to me, or to Gwendolyn, or to anyone else that your name is Ernest.
Well, my name is Earnest in town and Jack in the country. That calling card case was given to me in the country.
Now go on, tell me the whole thing.
Produce my calling card case first.
It is. Now produce your explanation and pray make it probable.
My dear fellow, there's nothing improbable about this explanation at all. In fact, it's perfectly ordinary. Old Mr. Thomas Pardue moved on to me when I was a little boy and made me in his guardian and Wiltshire's granddaughter, Cecily Pardue. Cecily, who addressed me in love with a respect that you cannot possibly appreciate, lives at my place in this country, and under her esteemed governess, Miss Prism. When one is in place in the position of guardian, one has to adopt a very high moral tone on all subjects. It's one's duty to do so, and as a high moral tone can hardly be said to conduce very much to either one's health or one's happiness. I produced a younger brother of the name of Ernest, who lives in the Albany and gets in the most dreadful scrapes. That's, my dear Algy, the whole truth, Johnson.
Pause. Sign. Do we understand what bun burying is?
No.
Bun burying is the scapegoat that Algernon has invented as his excuse for many things. Yes?
Yes.
Very good. Bunbury isn't real. Continue. Now.
Lady Bracknell, Miss Fairfax.
Good afternoon, Sir Algernon. I hope you're behaving very well.
Well, I'm doing very well, Aunt Augusta.
Well, that's not quite the same thing. In fact, the two rarely go together. I'm sorry if we were a little late, Algernon, but I was obliged to call on dear Lady Harbury. And now I'll have a cup of tea and one of those nice cucumber sandwiches you promised me.
Certainly, Aunt Augusta. Good heavens, lady, why are there no cucumber sandwiches? I ordered them specially.
There were no cucumbers in the market this morning, sir. I went down twice.
That will do, lady. I'm greatly distressed, Aunt Augusta, about there being no cucumbers, not even for ready money.
Oh, it really makes no matter, Algernon. I had conference with dear Lady Harbury earlier. And thank you. I'm quite a treat to you tonight, Algernon.
I'm afraid, Aunt Augusta, I have to give up the pleasure of dining with you tonight after all.
I hope not, Algernon. It would put my table completely out.
It is a great bore, I need hardly say, and a terrible disappointment to me. But I have just had a call from my poor friend, Mr. Bunbury. He's very ill again, and they think I should be with him.
It's very strange. This Mr. Bunbury seems to have extremely bad health.
Yes, poor Bunbury is a dreadful invalid.
Well, I must say, Algernon, I think it is high time
Do continue.
when
Do
Mr. Bunbury
intro.
decides whether he's going to live or die. This shilly-shally with the question is absurd. If you could ask Mr. Bunbury from me to be kind enough to not have a relapse on Saturday, for I rely on you to arrange my music for people. If someone wants something that will encourage conversation, particularly at the end of the season, when everyone has said everything they need to say, which in most cases probably wasn't much.
Yes, I'll speak to Bunbury if he's still conscious. Of course, the music is a great difficulty. You see, if one plays good music, people don't listen. If one plays bad music, people don't talk. But I'll run over the program, my Jonah, if you were so kindly to follow me to the next room.
Thank you, Algernon. It is very thoughtful. I'm sure this program will be delightful after a few exposed techniques. Gwendolyn, you will accompany me?
Certainly, Mama. Pray, don't talk to me about the weather, Mr. Wedding. Whenever people talk to me about the weather, I always feel quite certain that they mean something else, and that makes me, oh, so nervous.
I do mean something else.
Thought so. In fact, I'm never wrong.
And I'd like to take advantage of Lady Bracknell's temporary absence.
I would certainly advise her to do so. Mama has a way of suddenly coming into a room that I've often had to speak to her about.
Miss Fairfax, you are the most beautiful girl I've ever met since I've met you.
Yes, I'm quite well aware of the fact, and I often said at any rate in public really more demonstrative. For me, you've always had an irresistible fascination. Even before I met you, I knew I was far from indifferent to you. We live, as I hope you know, Mr. Weather, in an age of ideals. My ideals always been person, Earnest. There's something in that name that inspires absolute confidence. Before Algernon Miss mentioned to me that he had a friend called Ernest. I knew I was destined to love you.
Really love me, Gwendolyn?
Passionately.
Oh, darling, you don't know how happy you've made me.
My own Ernest.
But you don't mean to say you couldn't love me if my name wasn't Ernest.
But your name is Ernest.
Yes, but supposing it wasn't, could you still love me then? I think Jack fits. It's a charming name.
Jack. That's a good name. I don't think so. Let's see. Jack! 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 Oh! Jack has very little music in the name at all. If any at all, indeed, it does not thrill. It produces absolutely no vibrations. I have known several Jacks, and they all usually fail.
Gwendolyn, I must get we must get married at once. There's no time to
Repeat that line.
I must
Carry
get
the word
christened. I mean, we must get married at once.
A moment, Mr. Worthing.
Well, surely you know that I love you, and you led me to believe, Miss Fairfax, that you are not totally indifferent to me.
I adore you, but you haven't proposed yet. Nothing has been said at all about marriage. The subject has already been pushed.
Well, can I propose now?
I would think it an admirable opportunity. It is very Mr. Worthing. I think it only quite fair to tell your friend beforehand that I am fully determined to accept it.
Gwendolyn.
Yes, Mr. Worthing. What have you got to say to me?
You know what I've got to say to you.
But you won't say it.
Gwendolyn, will you marry me?
Of course I will, darling. How long have you been about it? I'm afraid you've had very little experience of how to propose.
My own one. I've never loved anyone in the world but you.
Mr. Worthing, rise up from this semi-recumbent posture. It is most indecorous.
Mamma, I must beg you to retire. This is no place for you. Besides, I will be not quite finished yet.
Finished what, may I ask?
I am engaged to Mr. Worthing, Mamma.
You are nothing of the kind. When you are engaged, I or your father should have told me. Will inform you of the fact. And now I have a few questions to put to you, Mr. Worthing. Gwendolyn, you will wait for me below in the carriage.
Mamma!
The the carriage, Gwendolyn!
Yes, Mamma.
Gwendolyn, the carriage!
Yes.
You may take a seat, Mr. Worthing.
Thank you, Lady Bracknell. I prefer standing.
I feel bound, however, to tell you that you're not down on my list of eligible young men. However, I'm quite ready to enter your name, should your answers be what a truly affectionate mother requires. How old are you?
29.
A very good age to be married at. I've always been of the opinion that a man who desires to get married should either know everything or nothing. Which do you know?
I know nothing, Lady Bracknell.
I am pleased to hear it. I do not approve of anything that happens with the natural ignorance. Ignorance is like a blossoming, delicate fruit. Touch it, and the bloom is gone. What is your income?
About £7,000 and £8,000 a year.
In land or in investments?
In investments, too.
That is satisfactory.
I do have a country house with some land interest, of course. About 1,500 acres. But I don't depend on that for my real income.
A country house? You have a townhouse, I hope? A girl with a simple, unspoiled nature such as Gwendolyn could hardly be expected to reside in the country.
Well, I own a farmhouse in Belgrave Square, but it is left to the year by Lady Boston.
What number in Belgrave Square?
149.
The unfashionable side. I thought there was something. However, that could easily be altered.
Do you mean the fashion or the size?
Both if necessary, I presume. Now to minor matters. Are your parents living?
I have lost both my parents.
To lose one parent, Mr. Wood, may be regarded as a misfortune. To lose both just looks like carelessness. Who was your father?
I am afraid I really don't know. The fact is, Lady Darknell, when I said my parents had lost me, it'd be near. I've lost my parents. It'd be near to the truth to say my parents had lost me. I don't actually know who I am by birth. I was found.
Found?
Yes. The late Mr. Thomas Cardew, an old gentleman, a very charitable and kindly disposition, found me and gave me the name of Worthing because he happened to have a first class ticket for Worthing in his pocket at the time. Worthing is a place in Sussex.
When did the charitable gentleman who had a first-class ticket for the seaside resort find you?
In a handbag.
A handbag!
Yes, Lady Bracknell, I was in a handbag, a somewhat large, brown leather handbag, with ordinary handles to it. May I ask what you'd advise me to do?
I would strongly advise you, Mr. Worthing, to try to find some relations as soon as possible, and make a definite effort to produce one at any rate, of either sex, before the season is quite over.
Did it go up all right, old boy? You don't mean to say Gwendolyn refused to? She always has a way of refusing. It's so ill-natured of her.
Well, Gwendolyn is as right as a triple. As far as she's concerned, we are engaged. Her mother is perfectly unbearable. Never met such a Vulcan. I don't actually know what a Vulcan is like, but I'm pretty sure Lady Bracknell is one. I beg your pardon, Algy. Should we talk about your arms that way before you?
My dear boy, I love hearing my relations abused. It's the only thing that makes me take them seriously.
You don't think that in about 150 years or so, she'd become like her mother, would she?
All women become like their mothers. That is their tragedy. Oh, by the way, did you tell Gwendolyn the truth about your being jacked in the country and Earnest in town?
Oh, my dear fellow, one does not blurt these things out, especially to a nice, sweet, refined girl like one.
What about your brother, the profligate Earnest?
Oh, before the end of the week, I shall evaporate him. I'll say he died in Paris in afterwards. Lots of people die back don't they, Algy?
Yes, but it's hereditary, my dear fellow. It's the sort of thing that runs in families. You're much better to say severe chill.
You are sure severe chill is not hereditary, are you?
Of course it isn't.
Very well then. My brother Ernest is to be carried off in Paris and die of a severe chill. That gets rid of him.
But I thought you said that Miss Cardew was particularly fond of this Ernest, your brother Ernest. Won't she find this loss a great deal?
Oh, that is all right. Cecily's not a silly romantic girl. She goes on long walks, has a massive appetite, and pays no attention at all to her lessons.
I would rather like to see Cecily.
And I will take very good care you never do. She's excessively pretty and only just 18.
Have you told one of you of an excessively pretty boy who's only just 18?
Oh, one does not blurt these things out to people. Cecily and Gwendolyn are perfectly certain to be great friends. I'll bet you anything, half an hour after they met, they'll be calling each other sister.
Women only do that when they have called each other a lot of things first. Now, let's go on. We must get going if we want to get a good table out of Willis. Gwendolyn, upon my word.
Algy, kindly turn me back. There was something very particular to ask Mr. Wedding.
Really, Gwendolyn, I don't think I can allow this all this time.
You really adopt strictly immoral towards life. I don't think you're quite old enough to do that yet. My own daughter. Ernest, we may never be married. I fear from the expression of Mama's face. I fear we never shall. Few parents nowadays pay any regret, any respect to what the children say to them. The old-fashioned respect for the woman is fast dying out. But although she may prevent us from becoming man and wife, and may marry someone else, and marry often, there is nothing she can possibly do that can alter my eternal devotion to you as one woman. Your story of your woman, as related to me by far with a pleasing comment, has naturally stirred the deeper fibers of my nature. Your Christian name has an irresistible fascination. The simplicity of your character makes you exquisitely incomprehensible to me. The town address of the Albany I had. What is your address in the country?
The Wilton House. The Manor House, Wilton.
How long do you remain in town?
Till Monday.
Good. Algy! You may turn round now.
Oh, I've already done that.
You may also ring the bell.
You will let me see you take care of it, Madame.
Pause.
I will see this Fairfax out.
I hope tomorrow will be a fine day, Lane.
It never is, sir.
You're a perfect pessimist, Lane.
I do give my best to give satisfaction, sir.
There's a sensible, intellectual girl. The only girl I've ever cared for in my life. Everything else go easy.
Oh, I'm just saying she's not full Bunbury, that's just all.
Don't take care. Your friend Bunbury will get into a serious scrape someday.
I love scrapes. They're the only thing that are ever so serious.
Oh, that is nonsense. You talk nothing but nonsense, Algy.
Nobody ever does.
Priscilla.
No problem.
Of course, we're under the understanding that as soon as she comes back, you can swap out. And we'll have a hefty stipend for you.
Thanks.
These are my directorial notes. This is for after rehearsals. So you can make corrections. A lot of corrections. Very good. Of course, as long as you know the general blocking, then we'll be good to go.
I sit here.
You sit there. And now we wait for Cecily. Is that the letter box? Some. Do we have the letter? Oh, there you are.
I'm sorry, Mr. They wouldn't let me leave Earnest unless Mr. Miller signed off.
Oh. Thank you, Priscilla.
Yeah.
You can forget the stipend. Goodbye.
I sat there.
And from the top.
Cecily, surely such a utilitarian occupation as the watering of flowers is running multiple streets in New York. Especially at a moment when intellectual pleasures await you. Sit at the table, pray over your book at page 15, you will repeat yesterday's German grammar lesson.
But I don't like German. Isn't it all a good language? I know perfectly well that I look quite clear after my German lesson.
Cecily, you know how anxious your guardian is, so you should improve yourself in every way. You lay particular stress on your German.
Dear Uncle Jack is so very serious. Sometimes he's so serious that I think he cannot be quite well.
Cecily, I'm surprised at you. Your guardian enjoys the best of health, and his gravity of demeanor is to be especially commanded and when so comparatively young as he is.
I suppose that is why he often looks a little bored when we three are together.
Cecily, you must remember his constant anxiety about that young man, his brother.
I wish Uncle Jack would allow that unfortunate young man, his brother, to come down here sometime. We might have a good influence over him. I'm sure you certainly would, Miss Prism. You know, German and geology and things of that kind influence man very much.
I do not think that even I could produce an effect on a man that, according to his own brother's volition, is irretrievably weak and dissipated. Indeed, I am not sure that I desire to reclaim him. As a man sows, so shall he reap. You must put away your diary, Cecily. I really don't see why I should keep one at all.
I keep a diary in order to enter the wonderful secrets of my life. If I didn't write them down, I should probably forget all about them.
Memory, my dear Cecily, is a diary we all carry about with us.
Yes, but it usually chronicles the things that have never happened and couldn't possibly have happened. I believe memory is responsible for the 3-volume novel series.
Don't speak slightly of the 3-volume novel, Cecily. I wrote one myself in younger days.
Did you really, Miss Prism? How wonderfully clever you are. I hope it did not end happily. I don't like novels that end happily. They depress me so much.
The good ended happily, the bad unhappily. That is what fiction means.
I suppose so. And was your novel ever published?
Alas, no, the manuscript was abandoned. I mean it in a sense of loss and mistake. Do you know, child, these regulations are profitless.
But I see the Dr. Chasuble coming up through the garden.
Chasuble, this is indeed a surprise.
How are we this morning? Miss Prism, you are at church well?
This Prism has just been complaining of his light headache. I think it would do him so much good to have a short stroll through the park, Dr. Chasuble.
Does the other mention anything about it?
Oh, I know that, Miss Prism, but I felt instinctively that you had a headache. Indeed, I was thinking about that, and not about my German lesson when the rector came in.
I hope certainly you're not inattentive.
Oh, I'm afraid I am.
That is strange. More fortunate to be Miss Prism's pupil, I would hang upon a race.
I speak metaphorically. My metaphors are done from these. I'd assume Mr. William hasn't returned from town yet?
Do not expect him until Monday afternoon.
Oh, yes. Usually likes to spend his Sundays in London. He's not one of those whose sole aim is enjoyment, as by all accounts his younger brother seems to be. Or he must be drinking. But it must not disturb Egeria and her pupil any longer.
Egeria, my name's Letitia Doctor.
Oh, a classical illusion, John. Hey, an office. But it must doubt see you two at Everton this afternoon?
I think so, Doctor. I will take that walk with you. Cecily, you read on your political economy in my absence?
Perfectly. We might go as far as the schools of that.
Horrid political economy, horrid geology, horrid German.
Mr. Ernest Worthing has just driven over from the station. He's brought his luggage.
Mr. Earnest Worthing, B4, the Albany West. Uncle Jack's brother. Did you tell him Mr. Worthing was in town?
Yes, yes. He mentioned he wanted to speak to you privately for a moment.
Ask Mr. Earnest Worthing to come here. And you had better talk to the housekeeper about a room for him.
Yes.
I have never really met any really wicked person before. I feel rather frightened. I'm so afraid he would look just like everybody else. He does.
You're my little cousin Cecily, I'm sure.
I am not little. Or you are under some strange mistake. I am not little. In fact, I'm more than usually tall for my age. But yes, I am. You, I see from your card, are Uncle Jack's brother. My cousin Ernest. My wicked cousin Ernest.
Well, mustn't think I'm wicked, cousin Cecily. I'm not all that wicked.
If you are not, then you have certainly been deceiving us all in a very inexcusable manner. I hope you have not been leading a double life, pretending to be really good and wicked at the same time. That would be hypocrisy.
Now that you mention it, I have been bad in my own small way.
I'm glad to hear it. I can't understand why you're here at all. Uncle Jack will be back till Monday afternoon.
Oh, yes, I have a business appointment that I am anxious to miss.
Well, I know, of course, how important it is not to keep a business engagement waiting, if everyone wants to retain any sense of the beauty of life. Still, I think you had better wait until Uncle Jack arrives. I know he wants to speak to you about your emigrating.
About my what?
You're emigrating. He was going to have to buy your outfit.
Oh, I certainly would not let Jack buy my outfit. He has no sense in neckties at all.
You won't require neckties. Uncle Jack is sending you to Australia.
Australia? I'd sooner die.
Well, he said at dinner Wednesday night that you would have to choose between this world, the next world, and Australia.
The accounts I've received on this world and the next world are not particularly encouraging. I think this world is good enough for me.
Yes, but are you good enough for it?
I'm afraid I'm not that.
How thoughtless of me. I should have remembered that when one is going to lead an entirely new life, one requires regular and wholesome meals. Won't you come in?
You should get married, Dr. Chastel. Listen to it, I can understand. A woman could never.
Believe me, I do not deserve so neologistic a praise. The practice of those that precepted the primitive church was distinctly against matrimony.
That is exactly why the primitive church has not lasted up until the present day. But where is Cicely?
Perhaps you followed us to the schools.
Mr. Worthing.
Mr. Worthing? Mr. Worthing, I trust this God before it is not the token to take the lambs.
My brother.
Most shameful debts and extravagance.
Still leading his life of pleasure.
Dead.
Your brother, Ernest, dead?
Quite dead.
What a lesson I trust you will profit by it.
Mr. Worthing, offer my sincere condolence. You should have the consolation of knowing your brother was the most generous and forgiving of brothers.
Poor Ernest. He had many faults, but it is a sad, sad world. He died abroad, in Paris, in fact. I got a call last night from the manager of the Grand Hotel.
Was the cause of death mentioned?
A severe chill, it seemed.
As a man, so shall he be.
Charity, dear Miss Prison Charity, none of us are perfect. I myself am susceptible to such thoughts. Will the interment take place here?
No, he expressed a desire to be buried in Paris.
In Paris? I trust that shows any very serious state of mind at the last. But trust me, Mr. Worthing, my christenings are adjustable to any importance on harvest days, days of humiliation, and festival days.
Ah, there might be mentioning christenings, right? I do presume you know the person.
Yes, did you you have anybody in mind for your brother's ceremony? He was unmarried, was he not?
Oh, yes.
People who live entirely for pleasure usually are.
But it is not for any baby, dear doctor. No, the fact is I'd like to be christened myself this afternoon if you have nothing better to do.
But surely you have been christened already, Mr. Wheaton, have you not?
I don't remember anything about it.
You have no grave doubts on the subject?
I certainly intend to have. However, I'm not sure if the whole thing would bother you. Do you think I'm a little too cool?
Not at all. It's a perfectly respectable ceremony. At which hour would you like the ceremony performed?
Oh, I might trot around about 5:30 if that would suit you.
Admirable. Admirable. Now I will leave this house of sorrow. What often are bitter trials or blessings in disguise.
There seems to be a blessing of an extremely obvious kind.
Uncle Jack, well, I'm pleased to see you back. What horrid clothes you have put on. Do go and change them.
Cecily!
My child, my child!
Uncle Jack, do look happy. You look as if you had a toothache, and I've got such a surprise for you. Who do you think is in the dining room? Your brother.
Who?
Your brother Ernest. He arrived about half an hour ago.
What nonsense. I haven't got a brother.
Oh, don't say that. However badly he may have behaved to you in the past, he's still your brother. I will go get him. And you will shake hands with him, won't you, Uncle Jack?
He's a brother. He's a very joyful title.
After we have all been resigned to his sudden death, his sudden return seems peculiarly distressing.
My brother Ernest, I don't know what it all means. I think it's perfectly absurd. Good heavens!
It's Brother John. I've come down from town to tell you that I'm very sorry, that I intend to lead a better life in the future.
Uncle Jack, you're not going to refuse your own brother's hand.
Nothing will induce me to take his hand. I think he's coming down here perfectly disgraceful. He knows well why.
Uncle Jack, do be nice. There's some good in everyone.
I find you're not so enthusiastic. Peculiar. I must admit, the fault all on my side.
Uncle Jack, if you don't shake hands with Ernest, I will never forgive you.
Never forgive me.
Never, never, never.
Well, this is the last time I shall ever do it.
For perfect a reconciliation, I think we shall leave these two brothers alone.
Cecily, you come with us.
Certainly, my little task of reconciliation is over.
You have done a beautiful act here today, dear child.
We should not be premature in our judgments.
I feel very happy.
How do you, young scoundrel? You must get out of this place at once. I don't allow any thundering here.
Enter merry men.
Merriman approaches.
The servants were a little out of whack today. I put Mr. Ernest Worthing's luggage in your room next to yours. What? Yes, it was quite a handful. That's why I was so late. I'm so sorry, sir. It was 3 Polton muses, 2 hat boxes, a dressing case, and a large luncheon basket filled with so many trinkets. Dear God.
I'm afraid I can't stay more than a week this time.
Merriman, order the dog cart at once. Mr. Earnest has been suddenly called back to town.
What a fearful lie you are, Jack. I've not been called back up to town.
Yes, you have.
No, I have not. I haven't had anybody call me.
Your duty as a gentleman calls you back.
My duty as a gentleman has never interfered with my pleasures in the smallest ways.
I quite understand that.
Cecily is a darling.
We're not to talk of Miss Cardew like that. I don't like it.
I think this has been a great success, but I must see Cecily before I go. Ah, there she is.
Oh, I made the king to water the roses. I thought you were with Uncle Jack.
No, he's gone to order the dog cart for me.
Oh, then is he going to take you for a nice drive?
No, he's going to send me away.
We've got to part.
I'm afraid so. It's a very painful part.
It is always painful to part from those whom one has known for a very brief space of time. The absence of old friends one can endure with absolute equanimity, but even a momentary separation from those whom one has just been introduced is almost unbearable.
The dog cart is at the waiting, sir.
You can wait, Merriman, for 5 minutes.
Yes.
Cecily, I hope I shall not offend you if I say quite frankly and openly that you are the absolute perfection of personification.
Your frankness does you great credit, Ernest. If you'll allow me, I will copy your remarks into my diary.
Do you really give a diary? I'd give anything to look at it, may I?
Oh no! You see, a diary is simply a collection of a girl's own thoughts and impressions, and consequently meant for publication. When it appears in volume form, I hope you will order a copy. But pray, Ernest, don't stop. I delight in taking down from dictation. I have reached absolute perfection. You can go on. I'm quite ready for more. Oh, don't cough, Ernest. When one is dictating, one should speak fluently and not cough. Besides, I don't know how to spell a cough.
Cecily, ever since I laid eyes on your incomparable in beauty, I dared to love you wildly, passionately, hopelessly, and devotedly.
I don't think that you should tell me that you love me wildly, passionately, devotedly, hopelessly. Hopelessly doesn't seem to make much sense, does it?
Cecily!
Uncle Jack would be very much annoyed if he knew you were staying until next week, at the same hour.
I'm obliged to go by the first train on Monday morning. Right. I don't care about Uncle Jack. I don't care about anybody in the whole world. You will marry me, won't you?
Silly boy, of course! Why, we have been engaged the last 3 months.
For the last 3 months?
Yes, it will be exactly 3 months on Thursday.
But how do we become engaged?
Well, ever since dear Uncle Jack first confessed to us that he had a younger brother who was very wicked and bad, you, of course, have formed the chief topic of conversation between myself and Miss Crumb. And, of course, a man who is very much talked about is always very attractive. I dare say it was foolish of me, but I fell in love with you, Ernest.
And, darling, when was the engagement actually settled?
On the 14th of February last, worn out by your entire ignorance of my existence, I decided to end the matter one way or another, and after a long struggle with myself, I accepted you under this dear old tree. The next day, I bought this little ring in your name. And this is the little bangle with true lover's knot which I promised you to always wear.
Can I do this? It's very pretty, isn't it?
Yes, you've wonderfully good taste, Ernest. It's the excuse I've given for you leading such a bad life. And this is the box in which you keep all your dear letters.
But, Cecily, I've never written you any letters.
You need hardly remind me of that, Ernest. I remember only too well that I was forced to write your letters for you. I wrote always 3 times a week, and sometimes oftener.
Well, that is what. Do let me read them, Cecily.
Oh, I couldn't possibly. They would make you far too conceited. The 3 you wrote me after I'd broken off the engagement are so beautiful and so badly spelled that I can hardly read them without crying a little.
But why did you break off our engagement? What had I done? I had done nothing at all, particularly when the weather was so charming.
When did I break off our engagement? Well, I broke off our engagement on the 22nd of last March. To then, if you'd like. Today, I broke off my engagement with Ernest. I feel it is better to do so. The weather still continues to charm me.
But why did you break it off? What had I done? I had done nothing at all, particularly when the weather was so charming.
Well, it would have hardly been a really serious engagement if it hadn't been broken off at least once. But I forgave you before the week was out.
Cecily, what a sweet darling you are. You will never break off our engagement again?
I don't think that I can break it off now that I've actually met you. Besides, there is the question of your name.
Yes, of course.
Well, you must not laugh at me, darling, but it has always been a girlish dream of mine to love someone whose name was Earnest. The name seems to inspire absolute credulity. I pity any poor married woman whose husband's name is not Earnest.
But, Cecily, did you dare to mean to say you could not love me if I had some other name?
But what name?
Oh, any name you like. Algernon, for instance.
But I don't like the name of Algernon.
I really don't see why you should object to the name of Algernon. It is not all that bad of a name. It is rather an aristocratic name. But seriously, Cecily, couldn't you love me if I had some other name?
I might respect you, Ernest. I might admire your character, but I fear that I should not be able to give you my absolute attention.
Cecily, your rector here is, I suppose, thoroughly experienced in rites and ceremonies of the church?
Oh, yes. Dr. Chasuble is a most learned man. He has never written a single book, so you can imagine how much he knows.
I must see him on the most important christening. I mean business.
Oh.
I shan't be away for more than half an hour.
Considering that we've been engaged since February 14th, and I've only met you today for the first time, I think it's rather hard for you to leave this for such a long period of time as half an hour. Couldn't you make it 20 minutes?
I'll be back in no time.
What an impetuous boy he is. I like his hair so much. I must enter his proposal into my diary.
Miss Fair Fairfax has just driven over from the station to visit Mr. Worthing.
Isn't Mr. Worthing in his library?
Yes, he left the rectory some time ago.
Pray, ask the lady to come here. Mr. Worthing is sure to be back soon, and you can bring tea.
Yes, yes.
Miss Fairfax, I suppose one of the many good elderly women associated with Uncle Jack has been at some of his philanthropic work in London. I don't quite like women who are associated with philanthropic work. I think it is so forward of them.
Miss Fairfax.
Pray, let me introduce myself to you. My name is Cecily Cardew.
Cecily Cardew, what a very sweet name. I like your father to say, and my cousin, people are very bright.
I'm so glad to say that you like me after we've met such a comparatively short time. Sit down.
I may call you Cecily, may I not?
If you wish.
And you always call me Gwendolyn, won't you? Pleasure. It's all quite settled, isn't it?
I hope so.
Perhaps this is a favourable opportunity for my mentioning who I am. My father is Lord Bradford. You've never heard of him?
I don't think so.
Well, Pa, I'm glad to say, is entirely unknown, and I think it's quite as it should be. The home succeeded in the proper faithful man, Cecily. The Larkin's views on education in the market district has brought me up to be extremely short-sighted. So, do you mind me listening to you at first?
Oh, no, not at all. I'm very fond of being looked at.
You on short visit, I suppose?
Oh, no, I live here.
Really? Your mother or some relative of that dynasty has resides in London?
Oh, no, I have no mother. No, in fact, any relations.
Indeed.
My dear guardian, with the assistance of Miss Prism, has the arduous task of looking after me.
You guardian?
Yes, I am Mr. Worthing's ward.
Oh, that's interesting. You never mentioned to me before.
I'm sorry to say that we have not been on very good terms for a long time.
Oh, inconvenient.
Yeah, I know.
Let me see. You're mine. Your secret. Thank you.
How secretive he grows more interesting in reality. I'm not sure, however, that his new news of weirdness bring me feelings of unmixed delight. I've liked you for a very long time, Cecily, and I think you're quite wonderful, but I'm bound to state that now that I know you're Mr. Worthing's ward, I can't help but expressing a wish that you were just a little bit younger than something, not quite so alluring. If I then I'm not quite so old. If you were older in appearance, not quite so alluring. In fact, if I may speak candidly,
Pray do. I think that when one has anything unpleasant to say, one should always be quite candid.
well, to speak with perfect candor, Cecily, I wish that you were fully 42 and more than usually plain for your age. Ernest has a strong, upright nature. He is a very soul of truth and honour. His loyalty would be as impossible to enlist deception. But even men of the noblest possible character are extremely susceptible to physical charms of others.
I beg your pardon, Gwendolyn. Did you say Ernest?
Yes.
Oh, but it is not Mr. Earnest Worthing who is my guardian. It is his brother, his elder brother.
Oh, you never mentioned to me that your brother.
Sorry to say that we have not been on very good terms for a long time.
That accounts for it. Cecily, you don't know the mind. Absolutely terrible man at the talent. But you are quite sure that it is not Mr. But
Quite sure. In fact, I'm going to be his.
I beg your pardon.
Dearest Gwendolyn, there's no reason why I should make a secret of it to you. Our little county newspaper is sure to tell the fact next week. Mr. Ernest Worthing and I are engaged to be married.
My darling Cecily, I think there's some slight misconception. Mr. Ernest Worthing is engaged to you. In fact, it should be a moment purchased on Saturday at the latest.
Gwendolyn, you must be under some strange mistake. Ernest proposed to me exactly 10 minutes ago.
That is very strange. If you care to verify the incident, you, Mr. Ernest Worthing, engaged to me yesterday after the afternoon at 5:30. I never travel anywhere without my diary. One should always have something sensational to read in the train. I'm sorry if it is any disappointment to you. But I'm afraid I am quietly.
You're just distress me more than I can tell you, dearest Gwendolyn, if I have caused you any physical or mental anguish, but I feel bound to point out that since Ernest proposed you, he clearly has changed his mind.
If the boy has been trapped to any punishment, I shall consider it my duty to rescue him at once and with a firm hand.
If my poor fellow has been entrapped in any unfortunate entanglement, I will never reproach him with it after we are married.
Do you allude to me, Miss Cardew, as an entanglement? You're presumptuous. On an occasion of this kind, it becomes more than a duty to speak one's mind. It becomes a pleasure.
You suggest, Miss Fairfax, that I entrapped Ernest into an engagement? How dare you? This is no time for wearing the shallow mask of manners. When I see a spade, I call it a spade.
It's clear, because I've never seen a spade, and it's clear that our social skills are widely different.
Okay. Congratulations. Well, we're now on intermission.
Alright, we are on intermission, so if you would like some treats, they're over there. Yeah.
What's yours?
Alright, welcome back. How was intermission? Good? Alright. I'm going to collect my notes in a moment, and then we'll begin. All good with crew, yes?
Yeah.
Servants ready? Actresses ready? And merrymen on your go.
Shall I lay tea as usual, miss?
Yes, as usual.
Are there any walks in the vicinity, Miss Cardew?
Yes, a great many. From the top of one of the hills, one can see 5 counties.
5 counties? I don't think I should like that. Hey,
I suppose that's why you live in town.
quite so well-kept garden you have here, Miss Cardew.
So glad you like it, Miss Fairfax.
I didn't know there was many flowers in the country.
Flowers are as common here, Miss Fairfax, as people are in London.
Well, personally, I don't understand how anybody does lives here. It's absolutely boring.
I believe that's what they call agricultural depression, is it not? I believe that aristocracy are suffering very much from it at present. It is almost epidemic amongst them, I am told. May I offer you some tea, Miss Fairfax?
Thank you. Detestable. Rival.
Sugar?
Nothing. Sugar's not quite fashionable anymore.
Cake or bread and butter?
Bread and butter, please. Cake is rarely seen in the best houses nowadays.
Have that, Miss Fairfax.
I believe you. Oh my God! I most distinctly asked for bread and butter, and though I most distinctly asked for bread and butter, you've given me cake! I know for the gentleness of my disposition, Miss Cardew, but you have tested my natural sweetness, and I swear you may have gone too far.
Save my boy from the machinations of any other girl, there are no lengths to which I would not go.
From the moment I saw you, I distrusted you. I felt that you were false and deceitful, and I am never deceived in such manners. My first impressions of people are invariably right.
It seems to me, Miss Fairfax, that I'm trespassing on your valuable time. You have, I suppose, many other calls of a similar nature to make acquaintance with.
Ernest, my own Ernest.
Gwendolyn, darling.
Moment. May I ask if you are to be engaged? That young lady right over there.
Dear little Cecily. Of course not. What could have put that pretty little head?
I knew there must be some strange
Who could have put such an idea in your pretty little head?
Thank you. You may. I thought there was a slide there, Polly. The gentleman who is close to you currently is my cousin, Mr. Algernon Moncrief. Algernon? Oh, are you called Algernon?
I cannot deny it.
Is your name really John?
I can deny it if I like. I can deny anything if I like. But my name is John. It has been John for years.
Oh, gross deception has been played on both of us.
My poor wounded Cecily.
My sweet rogue Gwendolyn.
You'll always call me sister, won't you?
Certainly. There's just one question I would like to be allowed to ask my guardian.
An excellent idea. Mr. Worthing, what explanation can you offer to us for pretending you have a brother? We are both engaged to be married to your brother, Ernest. And it is of some matter of importance to us. Know where he is right now at this moment.
Gwendolyn, Cecily, it pains me very much to have to speak the truth. It is the first time in my life I've ever been reduced to such a sentence. However, to be honest with you, I have no brother. I have never had a brother. I don't intend of having a brother, not even of any kind.
No brother of any kind. It seems to me that we are not to be engaged to anyone, Cecily.
It is a pleasant situation for a young girl to suddenly find herself in, is it not?
It is. Let us venture into the house. They will hardly find us over there.
Certainly. Men are so cowardly, aren't they?
As for your conduct towards Miss Cardew, I think you're taking in a sweet, simple, innocent girl like that is quite inexcusable. To say nothing of the fact that she is my ward.
And as for your deceiving a brilliant, clever young lady like Miss Fairfax, it's inexcusable as she is my cousin.
I'm engaged to be married to Gwendolyn, that is all. I love her.
Well, I'm engaged to Cecily. I adore her.
Don't see that ever happen.
I don't think there's much likelihood of your uniting with Miss Fairfax.
Well, it's no business of yours.
If it was my business, I wouldn't be talking about it.
How can you sit there calmly eating muffins when we're in this horrible predicament? I can't make it out. You seem to me to be perfectly heartless.
One shouldn't eat muffins in that agitated manner. The butter might get on my cuffs, and
It's perfectly heartless eating muffins under the circumstances.
when I'm upset, I refuse everything but food or drink. And at this particular moment, I am unhappy. And besides, I'm particularly fond of muffins.
Well, there is no reason you should be eating them all in such a greedy way.
Oh, please! I wish you would have some tea cake. I don't like tea cake.
I suppose a man can eat his own muffins in his own garden.
But you have just said it was perfectly heartless of one to eat muffins.
That was perfectly heartless of you under the circumstances. That is a very different thing.
That may be so, but the muffins are the same.
Now, John, I wish to goodness you would go.
You can't possibly wish that I should go. I haven't had dinner yet, and besides, I've just made arrangements under Dr. Chaucer to be christened under the name of Earnest at 5:45.
My dear fellow, the sooner you give up this nonsense, the better. I've already made arrangements with Dr. Chaucer to be christened Earnest at 5:30. Gwendolyn would wish it. We can't both be christened Earnest. It's perfectly absurd. Besides, I have a right to be christened if I like. Me and Dr. Chaucer will think it highly probable I never was. It's entirely different within your case. You have already been christened.
Yes, but I haven't been christened in years.
Yes, but you have been christened. That is the important thing.
I think it's very dangerous you're venturing on it now. You need not hardly forget you had someone very close to you carried off by a severe chill nearly a week ago.
You said yourself the severe chill was not hereditary.
It used to be, but I dare say now, science is always making wonderful improvements in things.
Oh, that is nonsense. You talk nothing but nonsense. That is nonsense. You talk nothing but nonsense.
Wait, Jack, you aren't at the muffin then. There are only 2 left.
Algie, I've already told you to go. Why don't you go?
I haven't quite finished my tea yet, and besides, there's still 1 muffin left.
There you go.
The fact that they did not follow us at once into the house seems to show to me that they have some sense of shame.
They've been eating muffins. That looks like repentance. They don't seem to notice us at all. Oh, but I haven't got a call.
They're looking at us. What a effrontery.
They're approaching. It's very forward of them.
Let us keep them in dignified silence.
Certainly. It's the only thing you can do now.
You will not be the first to speak.
Certainly not.
This way. I have a question. Why are you? Much depends on your time.
Gwendolyn, your common sense is invaluable. Mr. Moncrief, kindly answer me the following question. Why did you pretend to be my guardian's brother?
In order that I might have an opportunity of meeting you.
That certainly seems a satisfactory explanation to me, does it not?
Yes, dear, we can believe.
I don't. That does not affect the wonderful beauty of his answer.
True, matters of grave importance, style, and sincerity. It's a vital thing. Mr. Welling, what explanation can you offer to me for having to pretend to have a brother? Was it in order that you might have the opportunity of meeting me? I have the gravest doubts upon the subject, but I intend to question you. The explanation seems to me quite satisfactory, especially Mr. Welling's.
I am more than content with what Mr. Moncrief said. His voice alone inspires me with absolute credulity.
Then you think we should forgive them?
Yes. I mean, no.
True. I had forgotten. The principle says that one cannot surrender. Which one of us should tell them? Ask. As it were.
Could we not both speak at the same time?
It's an excellent idea, and maybe always the same.
Certainly.
Your Christian names are still an insuperable barrier. That is all.
The Christian names? Is that all? We are going to be christened this afternoon.
For my sake, you confess to this terrible thing.
I am.
Please be ready to face this fearful ordeal.
I am.
Lady Bracknell.
Good heavens.
Gwendolyn, what is the meaning of this?
Here's that I am engaged.
Sit down immediately! Hesitation of any kind is a sign of mental decay in the young, a physical weakness in the old. A prey so of my daughter's sudden flight by her trusty maid, whose confidence I purchased at a very small profit. Do you, Mr. Worthing, who is that young person whose hand my nephew Algernon seems to be holding in a peculiarly unnecessary manner?
That lady is Miss Cecily Cardew, my ward.
I'm engaged to be married to Cecily, Aunt Augusta.
I beg your pardon.
Mr. Moncrief and I are engaged to be married.
I don't know whether there's something particularly exciting in the air in this part of Bedfordshire, but the amount of engagements that go on in it seem to be considerably above the proper average. Now, I believe some preliminary inquiry on my part would not be out of the question, Mr. Worthing. Until yesterday, I had no idea there were any persons or families supporting those.
Miss Cardew is the granddaughter of the late Mr. Thomas Cardew of 149 Belgrave Square, Doyne, Surrey, born Spicer, and no, I guess.
I just don't seem to inspire confidence, even
I have preserved the court night without tears expression.
I have seen no strange errors in that congregation.
Our solicitors are Mias, Mockney, and Mockney.
Mockney, and Mockney affirm with a very high position in their publication. I heard that one of the Mr. Mockneys is often considered. So far, I'm satisfied.
How extremely kind of you.
Gwendolyn, follow.
Miss Cardew has about £130,000 in the funds. That is all that Lady Bracknell, complete routine.
£130,000? And in the fund. This time you made me truthful after all. Come here. Turn around. No, side profile. Yes. Now that I look at you, you are quite attractive. However, I guess this is quite simple, and your hair seems almost as big as my suggested, but that would all be false. And a little cut, yeah. Just a little bit more. Yes, just as touching. The 2 points of society are in front of the profile, and it's in front of Algernon?
Yes, Aunt Augusta?
She is so sweet.
Cicely is the sweetest and dearest person, and I don't care 2 tuppence about social possibilities.
Algernon, never speak disrespectfully of society. Only people who can't get into it do that. Now, I suppose I must invite you.
Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
Beg your pardon for interrupting you, Lady Bracknell, but I think it's only fair to tell you that according to the terms of Miss Cardew's grandfather, she cannot marry unless she has my consent. That consent I absolutely decline to give.
On what grounds may I ask?
I suspect Algernon, of being untruthful.
Untruthful? My nephew Algernon? Impossible. He's not selling her.
There can be no possible doubts about the matter. This afternoon, during my temporary absence in London, on an important question to all, he obtained admissions to my house by means of the false pretense of being my brother. He subsequently alienated the affections of my only ward. He then saved the tea and devoured every single muffin. And what makes his conduct all the more highlight is he's known for the first that I have no brother, that I have never had a brother, and that I don't intend to have a brother, not even of any kind. I simply told him so myself yesterday.
Well, Mr. Worthing, after hearing about mine, that's obviously true. I've decided to completely overlook it.
How extremely kind of you, Lady Bracknell. My decision, however, is unalterable. I decline to give my consent.
Well, let me ask you. How old are you?
Well, I am really only 18, but I always admit to 20 at dinner parties.
18, but it's mostly 20 at dinner parties. So ladies make some slight adjustments to her age at the I see no reason why you both be so much beautiful at the age of 35. So, after your restraint for tutelage, I see no reason why you should have been married.
Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
Well, my dear Lady Bracknell, the matter is entirely in your hands. The moment you consent to my marriage, I'll most likely allow your nephew to form the lines of my ward.
And that is consent I completely refuse to give.
Then a passionate celibacy is all any of us can afford to.
That is not what I proposed for Gwendolyn. After all, however, you make your own decisions.
Everything is quite ready for the christenings.
The christenings? Is that not somewhat premature?
Both of these men have shown a desire for immediate baptism.
At their age, the idea is grotesque and irreligious.
Am I supposed to understand that there is to be no christenings at all this afternoon?
I don't think that, as things are now, it'd be much of practical value to either of those circumstances.
I'm grieved to hear such sentiments from you, Mr. Winnie. However, I've just been informed by the pew opener. For the past hour and a half, Miss Prism has been waiting for me in the lobby.
Prism? Did I hear you mention a Miss Prism?
Yes, Lady Bracknell, I'm on my way to join her.
Is this Miss Prism, as you say, remotely connected with education?
She is the most cultivated of ladies, and the very picture of respectability.
And what position is she in your household?
I'm a celibate, madame.
Miss Prism, Lady Bracknell, has been for the last 3 years Miss Cardew's esteemed governess and valued companion.
It's obviously the same person. Let her be sent for.
She approaches. She is not. Miss Prism approaches. She is not.
I was told you were expected to be in the vestry, dear John. I've been waiting for you there for an hour in three quarters.
Prism! Come here, Prism. Prism. 28 years ago, you left Lord Bracknell in our house, number 104 of the grocery street, in charge of a perambulator that contained a baby of the male sex. However, he never returned. through the elaborate investigations of the Metropolitan Police, the prime blade was found in a remote corner near Bayswater. However, you, nor the baby, was ever retrieved.
Lady Rachel, I admit without shame that I do not know. I only wish I did. The plain facts of the case are these. On the day you mentioned, a day that is forever branded in my memory, I prepared as usual to take the baby out in its perambulator. I had also with me an old but capricious handbag in which I had intended to place a manuscript of a work of fiction that I had written in my few unoccupied hours. In a moment of mental abstraction, for which I never can forgive myself, I placed the manuscript in the bassinet and the baby in the handbag.
Where did you leave the handbag?
Do not ask me, Mr. Worthing.
Miss Prism, this is no matter of small importance to me. I must know where you left that handbag.
I left it in the cloakroom of one of the larger railway stations of London.
What railway station?
Victoria, the right in line.
I must return to my room for a minute. Gwendolyn, wait for me here.
I'm waiting for you all my life, not too long.
What does this mean, Lady Rachel?
I can hardly tell you. All people know high society. Coincidences like this are hardly considered a thing.
People now seem strangely agitated.
Your cottage is a very emotional nature. It is stopped now.
I hope this one is something interesting. It sounds like a terrible argument. I hate it. I'll commence it.
Miss Prism, is this the handbag? Please let me know. The importance of one or more life depends on it.
It seems to be mine. Here is the injury I received on an upsetting of a Gower Street omnibus in younger and happier days. And here, on the lock, are my initials. I forgot them in an extravagant mood I had them placed there. Yes, it is undoubtedly mine. I'm delighted to have it restored to me. It has been a great inconvenience to be without it all these years.
Miss Prism, more was restored to you than this handbag. I was the baby you placed in it.
You?
Yes, Mother.
Mr. Worthing, I am unmarried.
Miss Prism, I do not deny that a serious blow. But who has the right to rest a stone against one who has suffered? Cannot repentance wipe out this act of folly? Why should there be one law for men and another for women? Mother, I forgive you!
Mr. Worthing! There is some error! There is the lady who can tell you who you really are.
Lady Bracknell, can you kindly inform me who I am?
I'm sorry to tell you that you never had to speak to you. We're not altogether pleased. You were the son of my dear sister, Miss Lucy. And consequently, Algernon wrote the brother.
Algernon, brothers? I do have a brother, after all. I've always said I have a brother. Cecily, my unfortunate brother. Miss Prism, my unfortunate brother. Dr. Chaswell, my unfortunate brother. Gwendolyn, my unfortunate brother. You've never behaved to me like a brother in all my life. You have to have more respect in the future.
I was a little out of practice, old boy, but I did my best.
Ernest, darling, what is your name now that you've become somebody else?
Good heavens, I've quite forgotten that point. The subject of my name is irrevocable, I suppose. Just a moment. Before I was left in the handbag, had I been listed already?
Yes. Every luxury money could buy had been given to you by your fond and often guilty parents.
Good. Now that is settled. Now what was my father's Christian name? Let me know the worst.
Well, being his eldest son, obviously, you were christened after him.
Yes, but what was his Christian name?
Well, I cannot remember. He was an eccentric man. And that was due to the climate of things like indigestion and Indian coffee and things like that. But I have no doubt his name will be found in the army.
Army list of the last 40 years I hear. My constant study.
Son, you have given me the history of the church. And you've given me an atlas.
What volume do you have, Algie? Oh, you've had it the whole time. Here we go. Generals, Mallet, Maxwell, Madley. What ghastly names they have. Markby, Migsby, Mobbs, Moncrief. Lieutenant 1840, Captain, Lieutenant Colonel, Colonel, General 1869. Christian names? Ernest, John. I've always told you my name was Ernest. I mean, it is Ernest, naturally, after all.
Darling, I knew you have no other name.
I knew that something different.
Letitia.
Frederick at last.
Cecily at last.
My nephew, you seem to be displaying signs of triviality.
On the contrary, Aunt Augusta, I finally realized for the first time in my life the vital importance of being earnest.